Well, hello there, and good afternoon, and apologies from my end. It's National Women's Day today as well. So, what brilliant than actually having a woman on this morning and then another one again this afternoon. So, yeah, we have got Gayle Nicholson. She is one after reading her bio this morning and last night, she has got one hell of a story that needs to be heard today. So I did have a bio, but my device decided, yeah, you're not going to read it today. So technology these days, hey, brilliant, aren't they? Anyway, all I've got to say is welcome, Gayle.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Adam. It's really very much a pleasure to be here.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Now, obviously, we'll get started with obviously, like I said, I did have your bio. Now I've lost it. So just explain like who you are, where you are in the world, and just a little bit about yourself.
Well, in today's world, I am what's considered a resilience coach for veterans and survivors of adverse childhood experiences. So both of those communities run a very, very high risk to deal with PTSD, which can lead to poor life choices, which can shorten your lifespan by easily as much as 20 years if you don't do something to manage the recurring thoughts and trauma, reliving the trauma over and over again. So, over the years, I have developed a technique that addresses the energetic body because I believe that those traumas are spiritual wounds, and I've used my background as a metaphysical minister and miracle maker to change lives with people so that their day to day anxiety levels are lower, they're getting better sleep, and they actually have a little bit more joy in their life than they really thought their future was going to hold for them.
Brilliant,
So,
brilliant.
yeah,
And
that's
all
what
I've
I
got
do now.
all I've got to say is hi, Pamela. Welcome. She says hi, Adam. Hi, Gail. I can't think where she's from, but she's definitely not from the UK like me. I know that.
Hello, Pamela
Uh,
Marie. How are you?
anyway, so obviously we'll start with just like your little backstory, like growing up, like how was your like like in the education world? Obviously I say it like, was you the shy little girl? Was you the class clown? Along those lines.
I was the little girl who got all of her work done so fast that she read through all of the extracurricular scholastic things and took all the tests and did really, really well in school. I was very, very smart. Later years, like in elementary school, they've got all these activities that you can do that keep you busy. In the later years in middle school and high school, I didn't have that much left to engage me after my work was done. So I got into a little bit of trouble then, mostly with
Oh,
going, oh, I already know that. I'm just not going to go to school. So my ninth grade year was done over the course of 2 years because I skipped one semester one year and then went to the other semester and then had to go back and redo the first semester the next year that I missed the first. And I still passed. I mean, you know, I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging as far as my intelligence. It wasn't like that. It was a matter of they couldn't keep me occupied, and that got me in trouble.
hey, I
Yeah.
don't believe anyone's cleverer than others. Obviously, like compared to myself, and I don't know. I'm just gonna pick on somebody. Isaac Newton. Obviously, he's cleverer. Well, was cleverer than me. But thing is, it's not about like being cleverer than other people.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah. Like my son, he's only 9 years old, and he is phenomenal when it comes to numbers because he's got autism himself,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously when he was doing a video with his private tutor about maths, he basically said to him, my son said to this tutor, oh, I'm going to be better, and like, I'm going to be like at your stage. And he went, Lucas, I don't want you at my stage. I want you to be better than me. And that's what it's all about. Yeah. That's what it's about.
Well, I'm reminded of something that a good friend of mine said when I was helping her. I have a photography hobby, and I was helping her, and she's a musician and a hairdresser. And I was doing the computer stuff, the layout and design for her CD cover. And I started talking to her in such a way that it was very condescending, because I was doing my computer stuff and she didn't know anything about it. And she asked what some might consider a stupid question, and I was a brat about it. Wasn't like a big breakdown thing, but it was a tone in my voice. And she turned to me and looked at me and she said, my dear, I'm not stupid. If I asked you to mix up the hair color for your particular shade of blonde, you would fry your hair. So we all have our skills and talents in what's been given to us to be in the world. Don't ever talk down to someone else because they don't know your path, because you don't know theirs. Right? Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you picked on the word stupid there. Now, I don't believe there is such a phrase as a stupid question. There's no such thing. It doesn't matter like whether you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, when like me growing up throughout school, I didn't believe mental health actually existed. I didn't, because I never came across it, and that's a problem in today's society. But after learning it, like I kept saying, oh, I'm a failure at this, failure at that. Now, people have actually grown to know what actually fail means. Mm-hmm. And yeah, fair enough, we get, oh, you're wrong there, do it better, do it again. But that now it's come to realise, yeah, it peed me off at the time, but it's actually them wanting you to better yourself. And that's what those teachers are actually doing. We're trying to get the best out of you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So this leads me on to, obviously, when you after like your education, because you've had some pretty difficult challenges in your life.
Yeah, and it's interesting because my education is kind of what kept me, one of the things that kept me buoyant through all of this. Because as we know, between the ages of birth and 7, a child is on record constantly, and makes certain decisions that will determine where their life is going to go from there, what they can prove to themselves as right, what they can avoid that they don't want to experience again. And every human being does this. This is how humans create what their life is going to be, by their experiences that young. That young, I was in a home. My mother and father had married. They were each on a third marriage. So I was the only child from that marriage. I grew up with 4 siblings that lived in the home and 4 other siblings that were older and had already grown. They didn't live in the home with me. So I grew up as the youngest of 5, but still an only child. And my mother and my godmother would take us to church on Sunday. And my father was a piece of crap alcoholic, sat on the couch smoking cigars, beat my mom, and she'd make him dinner anyway, kind of asshole. Excuse my language.
It's okay. It's all right.
All right. So, we at about the age of 8, my family started to disintegrate. My oldest brother went off to college. That's normal. My mother decided the only way she was going to get out of the situation she was in was to go off to college. That's not quite normal. Because she was blind, got an apartment on campus and left the rest of us kids with my father. Now, what she may or may not have known at the time was that my father was a pedophile and he had been abusing my sister my entire life. When my mom was pregnant with me was when it began for her. And then I found out years later that he had also been abusing my oldest brother that had gone off to college. So when all of this happened and my mom moved out as well, my sister called up my godmother and said, "Get me out of here." And she took the other siblings, my sister and her two younger brothers, my two older brothers, the middle boys, with her, and left me alone with my blood biological father. She had no right to take me, so she had to leave me behind. Logically, I get that, but that set up a paradigm for me for the rest of my life, that everybody else gets to have a great life except for me. There's something in my DNA that says that I don't get to have a good life. So you can imagine what that's been, what kind of self-sabotage that sets up going on further. In my 5th grade year, I went to 5 different elementary schools before the truant officer caught up with us. My father lost the house that we lived in. And for the next 2 years, I lived in a office trailer that had no electricity, no running water, no plumbing. You know, there was a bathroom, but it was filled with gallon jugs full of my dad's urine. And I slept on top of a metal desk.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's just the surface stuff, dude. don't freak out yet. Yeah. So I mean, I'm dealing with all this from like the age 8, 9, 10 years old. Finally, end up in a really good foster family. I've heard such horrible stories about foster homes everywhere in the world, and I always must give props to my foster parents, Grace and Bud Ridings, because they literally pulled me out of the pit of despair and gave me structure and discipline and purposes, things to do, things to be accountable for. We had, it was a very, I don't want to say a rigid schedule, but it was packed. I mean, we got up at 8 o'clock in the morning, had breakfast, went to school, came home from school. We had an hour to do whatever we wanted, whether it was homework, watch TV, then it was off to the rink, practice for 3.5 hours, home, dinner, homework, brush your teeth, go to bed. Same thing every day except for Wednesday. Wednesday was our day to go play with the kids in the neighborhood. And Saturday mornings we went to practice early, and then the rest of the weekend was ours. But see, this is the kind of environment that a child thrives in. They know what's coming. They know what's expected. They know, the time of the day passes because there's the next thing to look for. Or the next thing, I've got this amount of time until I have to go do this. It's the predictability that children need. And I needed it, and they provided it. And I wouldn't be where I'm at in life without having that shift to see a different point of view. Like, life can be lived a different way, and I can fit into that world too. And that was instrumental as I got older and my childhood issues started dealing with me before I was ready to deal with them. Most of the time, generally speaking, people are starting to be faced with their trauma recovery. Their PTSD starts getting outrageous right around the age of 40. With me, because my brother started going through his recovery, and he's 10 years older than me, and he was sharing his stuff with me. It was almost like my recovery got jump-started about 10 years earlier than most people. So, I started going through that stuff. That took me into 12-step, which took me into learning about energy and crystals and different types of energy work and meditation that one can do to reduce the chatter in their head, to reduce their anxiety. And that's when I started running with it and trying it on everything and modifying it and doing a mixture of EFT tapping, crystal infusion, and Reiki energy that seemed to really make a huge difference for myself in my experience of life, what I was responding and reacting to. And then I started doing it with the people that were around me that were also dealing with the same type of things and getting amazing results with them too. So I have developed this over the course of almost 20 years now. It's what I'm doing now. We've got a beta program going on at this very moment. for this process. And it's a 6-week course called Making Miracles with Gayle Nicholson. And we basically take you through, this one's going to be on prosperity. So we're dealing with attitudes about finances that you picked up from mom, attitudes about finances that you picked up from dad, and attitudes about finances that you picked up from society. And we're clearing those barriers that you've chosen a point of view about life, that this is the way that it is, and it stops you from having what you want. We're clearing those barriers out of the way so that you can actually choose, is this something I want, or is this something society says I should want? Do I really want it? Because a lot of us are set up for failure in that we've been told to want something that it's not our heart path. And we run into that invisible wall again and again.
Exactly. Yeah, just a couple of comments from Pam. One of them is going back to the education. Jack states, Albert Einstein said this: everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid.
I absolutely love that quote from Einstein. It just hits the nail on the head. Yep, absolutely.
And then there's another one. There you go. There's the comment. Then the other one is, amazing that you were able to rise above all of that terrible childhood experiences. I'm looking forward to hearing your story, Gayle.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So we all.
Yes.
Now,
I wanted to back up for a second and mention we talked a little bit about that word stupid. All right. So I got to be responsible for the fact that I know that most of the world hears the word stupid and they hear dumb, intellectually challenged, that type of thing. The actual word stupid comes from stupor, meaning kind of wandering around in a daze, not really clear, not sharp about what's going on. And that's where a lot of people operate from these days. We're walking around in this half dozing, half awake stupor that if we really looked at what we're talking about, that would clear up and we would have a different point of view about it. So when I use the word like a stupid question, it's kind of a question that you ask without thinking, without like looking at it type of thing. So, and I don't mean to ever infer that anybody is intellectually challenged when I use that word. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then you raised the point to me personally that we're only just scratching the surface. So let's actually break that surface and go a little bit deeper.
Okay. So do you have a particular question, or you want me to just tell you about what it was like in the trailer?
Yeah, go on. Let's talk about the trailer.
All right. So I was technically a victim of kidnapping, custodial kidnapping. My mom, according to the courts, had physical custody and decision-making custody with visitation from my father. None of his nasty past came into play in any of that. In fact, later on when I was in court to establish custody because of the foster care, he never showed up. But he had picked me up for a visitation and then refused to bring me back. And my mom, being blind, didn't drive, didn't know where to find me. And I was just kind of out in the woods behind this tool and die shop in this trailer for quite a long time. While I was there, the truant officer came and talked to my dad and basically let him know that I needed to be in school and going to school. But with an alcoholic like that and a pedophile, and come to find out later on, a murderer, an escaped murderer at that, there's no getting a kid up for school in the morning. If I didn't wake myself up in time to get some clothes on and get out there to the bus stop, he's not wakeable at 7:30 in the morning. So I didn't go to school. What I did do was I spent an awful lot of time in the office area of the trailer playing with adding machines and typewriters and writing stories that gave me an alternate version of life. And I don't know if they've got that over in the UK, but we had this thing at the time called Columbia House Record Company, where their advertisements in the TV guide and the weekly circulars were, 6 records for a penny kind of thing. Well, my dad had a post office box and I had plenty of pennies, and I taped a penny to one of these advertisements and I ordered every single Barry Manilow album they offered. Right? Now, I know this sounds weird, but back in my childhood home with my older brother that was 10 years older than me and my sister that was 8 years older than me, they had amazing musical tastes. They had record collections that spanned Chicago, Electric Light Orchestra, Queen, Styx. I mean, all of the greatest bands of the 70s. And Manilow was a chart topper. My oldest brother had a copy of his very first album. We call it the Mona Lisa album because it's a white cover and very, you've probably seen it, but he's got this smile that's kind of enigmatic. But at any rate, he played that album for me. And it was one of those moments, that becomes one of those core memories where it's just me and my older brother who always had patience for me, who always had answers to my questions, in his bedroom that was painted lime green with a matching lime green Mickey Mouse alarm clock and the record player in front of us. And he would play this album. There was a song on it called Sweet Life. And the song is all about somebody telling their parent, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up. And for a 5-year-old, that's incredibly relatable. Everybody's asking you, what are you going to be when you grow up? And it was a very positively based song, and I loved it. And there's a couple other ones on that album as well that I really connected with. So when I was alone and did not have my brother there to have my back and answered my questions, I didn't have my household full of siblings that was always active and there was always something interesting going on. When I was just all by myself in this very metal, very disgusting trailer with nobody but a drunk in the other room that reeks of rye and, glasses with spit and tobacco and stuff everywhere. It was just horrible. But when I'm sitting there all alone, feeling like everybody else gets to have a good life except for me, I got supported by this connection to home. And all of these songs, it's funny because Barry Manilow gets a bad rap for being, like drag me out and shoot me songs, just slit my wrist songs. But that's really not true. That may be true for the ones that you hear on the radio, but the album cuts, there's some extremely hopeful songs and it did a lot for my self-esteem because it showed me that there are people that go, you know what, you hurt me, but you're going to regret that someday because I'm going to go have a great fucking life and you're not going to be part of it. And it helped me find the little bits of role models, believe it or not, role models from songs that I could choose. Okay, like for example, a Linda song. She's utterly devoted for 2 verses. And at the end, she's like, you know what? You've never paid attention to me. I'm out. I deserve better than this. And that showed me that there's a certain point where you can be patient and you can put up with. And then there's a certain point where, nope, this is the line. This is for me now, And it really helped me set standards for myself where standards weren't supplied by your usual, the role models that you expect, your mother, your father, that type of thing. So it was really, really helpful to me. And it may be strange to some people, but it's what happened for me. And all of those stories in those songs helped me redefine what was right and wrong in life. And they gave me a good foundation later on. When I went to college in Canada for journalism, and it was right towards the end of my education there that my PTSD started dealing with me. And one of the ways that I knew was that I would sit down to write my stories, which essentially were just ways of me working out things in my head. And I had a glass of wine in my hand, and that was a red flag for me because all growing up, I refused to drink. I made up lies in high school. Oh, no, I can't, not quite lies, but I embellished. I can't go to your party because I have an enlarged liver. And if I start drinking, the ambulance is going to come and everybody's going to get busted. You don't want me at your party. And it was kind of my way of staying out of the thick of where everybody else got into trouble. So to be sitting there at the computer and realize, you've got a glass of wine in your hand. What are you doing? Right? It was one of those insidious ways that my being was trying to numb what was being put through my brain to deal with. And I went, okay, this is not going to work. And I went to a psychiatrist, and I had no idea what I was going to talk to him about. I just knew my life was falling apart. And when I sat down in his chair, my father fell out of my mouth, just talking about all that period of time in the trailer and all of the different things that he did to me, and finding me and tracking me down, and kind of just being a mile away in the background that sent me into a deeper spiral when I was in high school. And at the end of that appointment with the psychiatrist, he made me a prescription for Xanax and a prescription for Prozac. And I looked at him and I said, look, I already know how to do drugs. I need to learn how to live healthy. And he's like, let's just stabilize you. So I took the Prozac and the Xanax for a week, and it took away the lows. For me, it also took away the highs. And I was unwilling to not have joy in my life, to just avoid pain, right? So I stopped taking them after a week, and I found a different counseling place. It was a rape crisis center. I was pregnant at the time, so they put me into a women's group therapy. They didn't want anything too intense while I was pregnant, because the mother's mental state does affect the baby on many different levels. And after the baby was born, I went into one-on-one therapy. That therapist was the one that got me into 12-step with a very clever way of putting it. She said, we're only going to get so far if you keep going home and refreezing the ice cube. Because I was the ice princess. I could definitely compartmentalize. I could shut everything off. I could turn off and walk away from you in a heartbeat, because I'd done it. I was practiced at it. I was skilled. So yeah, she got me into that. And that was when I started getting into 12-step, when I started learning the different properties of different crystals. Because for example, I don't know if you know this or not, but among the Greeks, they used to make their wine chalices out of amethyst. Now the amethyst, it guarded against drunkenness. They could drink all night without getting sloppy drunk. Because the amethyst chalice would raise the vibration as much as the wine would lower it. So yeah, I mean, little things like that. I've got an entire collection behind me. You might be able to see on my stands behind me, all of the different crystals that I use with people and the various work that I do and what they're up to.
I want to actually share my experience with these crystals, because
Okay.
I actually tried that myself, because I invited one of our friends around to treat my partner for her birthday, because she was getting all into the spiritual. And obviously I didn't believe at the time, so I just went upstairs, did my own thing, and she did it. And then when I got shouted down after it finished, she was sat there in floods of tears, because someone came to us. So right, okay then, right, let's just go off this. I'm gonna give it a go. Mm-hmm. So So it was only a 20-minute YouTube video about this. So I just led there and listening to all these instructions, what we had to do. The crystals were being placed on me one by one. And then I felt different. Like halfway through, like somebody was lifting me up. Even though I was flat on the ground, somebody was lifting me up. Like what you see at, I don't know, a concert or a gig where they do that stage time. I felt like that. And then when I woke up, opened my eyes, it felt like, and this was during the day, felt like somebody was holding my right wrist, but then somebody was holding my left hand.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and I've believed in it ever since.
It's funny we talk about believing it, but here let me give you a couple of examples. Yeah. All right, so this is it's funny because we talk about crystals like believing in it like it's some sort of religion or spirit or something like that. This is science, okay? This is just science. We don't have to believe in gravity. We're going to fall down if we trip. It's there. It works, right? So this here, let me see if I can give you a really good picture of it. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
You see the edges. You see how it feels very metallic in my hand. This is bismuth, okay? Now, can you imagine what this might be used for?
I'd say healing.
Well, yeah, definitely healing. But I mean, by the looks of it, one would think that, oh, well, it kind of reminds you of an oil slick under a car. Like maybe it's metallic, maybe to be used for car parts or something like this. And in fact, this is the only active ingredient in Pepto-Bismol. This ground up is put into that pink suspension liquid that we swallow. And that pink suspension liquid is specifically just to keep this plastered against our stomach lining so that this can extract what's toxic in your stomach so that you can feel better. Okay. Now, this is science. You know, I can work with this on a number of different levels, physically, energetically, and so on. Just because we don't have machinery that is finely calibrated enough to read the energy signature coming off of this does not mean that it does not have an energy signature. And that's what I work with, is the energy signature of these things.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. You know what? I was actually due to go live tonight. But obviously I've cancelled that. But what the original topic was is how spiritual crystals actually help our anxieties levels.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually going to do a podcast about that tonight, but obviously I'm not going to because I've got other plans. But I definitely want to bring you on to actually talk about these crystals.
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely. Pamela's got a question in the chat about, would I use that crystal with or for stomach issues? Yes, I would. But I would use it in a slightly different way, in that I would meditate with it, between both hands, and it will quiet the rumbly tummy energetically of anxiety, because that's where we feel our anxiety is in our gut, right? So when we are over the top on the charts with anxiety in our gut for too long, that's where we start getting gastrointestinal issues and that kind of thing. Bismuth, I would work with it as a meditational stone. I would work with it as a conduit with Reiki energy. But I personally am not going to take a piece of that, grind it up, and drink an elixir of it myself. Some people might.
Yeah. Well, obviously after this podcast, I am actually going to show you the book my partner got and the crystals.
Awesome.
Obviously, I'm not going to jump off the podcast now to do that, because that'd be just no. But anyway, yeah. So I want to talk to you about your transformation.
Okay.
Obviously, all that. I've just got no word with how you've been brought up. A word just cannot come to me at all. So all the past, that's how I'm going to describe it.
Okay.
To who you are today.
Well, I don't know what to tell you other than the fact that I have two daughters, and I have lived my life so that they're they're the priority. Now, I'm not saying that like my girls got everything they wanted. No, they actually got held to a very high standard. And they've both proven themselves to be amazing people and amazing contributions to society. But I got to say that I persevered when I wouldn't have for myself. There were many times before and after that they were born that I was suicidal. And after they were born, it became a little bit easier to just wait it out until those moments passed, because it was just like 5 more minutes, because I didn't want my daughters to grow up thinking that their mother didn't care enough to stick around. I grew up feeling like my mother didn't care enough to stick around and she was still alive. Could you imagine what that leaves the kids with? So there were many times that I got through those long, dark nights of the soul by just hanging on for my kids' sake. And there were programmed behaviors locked into me that I knew that if I did not deal with them, they would get all over my kids. For example, my mom and my dad were separated from the age of 6 months. I was 6 months old when my mom and dad separated, but they still lived in the same house. This was the early 1970s. Even though the divorce decree gave my mother the house that she bought before she married my dad, the police couldn't make him move out. They would come and attend the house when he would beat the crap out of her and still would not make him leave the house. She was very much trapped by his choice not to leave, right? So I grew up inside of many, many talks, overhearing talks between my mom and my godmother on what a piece of shit he was, and, loser and alcoholic and horrible and couldn't be trusted, and when's he going to show up next time, and he's gone again, and all this kind of stuff that instilled in me, men can't be trusted to run a household. They can't be trusted, period. Right? So those are types of things that I dealt with myself and tried to heal so that my daughters didn't have to deal with that as well. Yeah. That one I'm not quite so successful on, they've got pretty good relationships, pretty good marriages, but I still deal with coming up against treating my partners like I won't get married, because as soon as I get married, you're a piece of shit. And why would I do that to somebody that I love? My current relationship, we're going on 12 years because of the fact that we have not gotten married. We choose not to get married. And I'm probably in more of a married relationship now than I've ever been in either of my marriages. But he gets to be new for me every day.
About me and my partner. Yeah, people saying that about me and my partner. We've been together just over 12 years. It's been on and off relationship for many, many years. And I actually proposed to her in the first year. And we just never had the marriage. We never had the wedding. But people still describe us as an old married couple.
Yeah. Marriage happens. The bonding happens in the heart. The rest of it's just for legal purposes. Seriously. No, we were talking about it.
She would love you for that.
We were actually talking about it the other day. And I can't remember exactly what the context was, but I compared it to, no, you're married from the moment you say I do. It does not matter how long it takes the minister to file that paperwork. You know, if you've, whether he's filed it or not, months down the road, you've still been operating under a vow that you've taken. And the marriage happens in the heart. The rest of it's just legal. Yeah, so
I can't believe my partner's going to be watching this video. She'll be like, yeah. I know. She just like, what's the point in spending all that money for the sake of a ring and a piece of paper?
Mm-hmm. Well, and they've done studies that exponentially, the more that you spend on the ring and the wedding, diminishes the length of your marriage. It's like correlated. Because your focus is on the wrong thing. Your focus is on the party, right? And marriage is not a party. Marriage is choosing this person that has just pissed you off the same way for the 5th time since breakfast. Again. And again the next morning. And again the next morning. That's what marriage is. And it's not necessarily a horrible thing, right? What?
But it is known though. And I don't know. I think it is scientific proven. I don't know, but it states that if you piss your partner off, but you love them at the exact same time, and that partner knows that you are doing both, you're in a perfect relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm willing to say the things you don't want to hear because I love you enough to give you a heads up about something you don't want to see. Yeah, that's big, huge. And so few relationships have that. So many people go into it and lose sight of it's you and me against the world. And it reduces down to you against me. Or me against you.
Thanks for that.
I tend to do that to people.
Yes. So anyway. So what's next for you? Like, I think you said you was writing a book, or you've got a book.
Yep, I've got a number of books actually. I'm a contributor in 2 books. One is called The Courageous Self-Love Journey. That was put out by Erica Glessing as the editor on that. If you want to look it up on Amazon or something, you'll need her name, Erica Glessing, and The Courageous Self-Love Journey. I've got a chapter in that, and then I'm also and then Hold On to Your Soul. That's the other one, and then I've got a couple that are still in process. One is Creative Command. That is the workbook that goes along with my 40-day reset program. But the thing that I'm working on right now is I am taking on 6 one-on-one clients for energy work with me. And there are packages that, we'd have to talk about exactly what you need and what I can provide for that. But I'm taking on one-to-one clients, and we're doing the Making Miracles with Gayle Nicholson beta right now. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, and we'll see if it's not too late to get you into that. And then Tuesdays, I've got 3 Crones in the Woo Woo, which is myself and 2 other women about my age, a little bit over 50. Talking about all of the things that are the magic of being woman, whether it's astrology, numerology, crystals, all of those things that we women kind of use in our little bag of tricks that helps the world smooth out for everyone around us. So tune in on Tuesdays.
Where can people find you?
You can always look for me on Facebook with Gayle Nicholson, my name spelled exactly the way that you see it there on the ticker, GayleNicholson. You can find me through my website, GayleNicholson.com. And you can find the 3 Crones group on Facebook, 3 Crones and the Woo Woo written out, letter 3, or number 3. Crones in the Woo Woo, and join the group. It's a great public group. We have a lot of fun. Each week we do a broadcast on Tuesdays. We talk about the crystal of the week. We talk about the galactic forecast, where the planets are and how they're affecting us. And we also talk about magic words, also known as creative commands. What are we doing in our speaking that is creating for us or destroying for us? So that's what we do every week. And that's where you can find me.
There you go. And all I've got to say is thank you.
Thank you.
For all you do. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for actually coming on.
It's been an honor. I appreciate the invitation.
You're most welcome. Please don't be a stranger.
Okay, I won't. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Reach out to me if you want to talk more about crystals. We've got all kinds of stuff that we can pull together. And I will be on Lauren Harris's show on the 19th with a short list of the 12 stones of the high priest's breastplate as delineated in the Bible, and recognizing the fact that we've been honoring the spiritual properties of these crystals since the Old Testament times.
Yeah. Lorraine Michael Harris, he's awesome. I've had him on the show a couple of times.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing.
He is. He's brilliant. But anyway, so yeah, that's a shout out to Lorraine if he ends up watching this. He'll be smiling, probably laughing, or probably hitting Bella paper.
I love it. All right, my dear.
All right, then. Right, thanks, Pamela, for coming on. And I've got to say thank you. I've got no more podcasts on now until Thursday. So I've got to say cheerio.
Enjoy your time off, and thanks again for having me, Adam.
You're most welcome.